Imagine a team defending 115 in a T20 match, captivating the cricketing world. The Super 8 have come to an end today in one of the greatest climaxes in Cricket World Cup history. Australia, after being tipped up by Afghanistan and suffocated by India, required Bangladesh of all teams to beat Afghanistan. Afghanistan needed to win to qualify, and what made this even more interesting, if Bangladesh won by enough, they would qualify ahead of both of them. It had the recipe for chaos, and in the end, the game was cooked to perfection. This is the Maximum Cricket Podcast, empowered by Domino's. My name is Munter. Sit back and relax if you can. Hit that subscribe button and allow me to try and unpack one of the greatest days in Afghanistan cricket history, while we look forward to the semi-finals, and lastly, we will grade the 4 teams who have left us today.
From Kabul to Kandahar, they'll all be celebrating. Oh, that is brilliant. It's a hero maximum. On the ground, down the ground, another hero maximum.
Let's talk about the success of the Super 8s and that final game between Bangladesh and Afghanistan. I love how both groups weren't decided until the final games of each group. That is the epitome of a successful format. Both last games were cliffhangers. South Africa just sneaking past the West Indies. That could have gone either way. Afghanistan sneaking past evidently Australia and also Bangladesh at the death there. Afghanistan, they made 115 for 5. Gurbaz and Zadran put on 59 for the first wicket off 11 overs. 84 for 1 off 16 overs. Couldn't accelerate. Didn't know what was going on. I thought, well, you know, they're a possum in the headlights. Maybe the stage is a little bright for them. Obviously, that turned out to be false. Rashid Khan, he really gave them a boost at the end. He hit 3 sixes in the final 7 or 8 balls. He made 19 off 10. That pushed them to 115, which you felt probably shouldn't be enough. But the pitch was tough. It was spinning square. It was doing a lot off the deck. So with Afghanistan's attack, you knew they were a sniff at least. But it just brought Bangladesh back in the game. Suddenly they've only got only chased 115 off 12 over 12.1 overs to be exact, and that's like, well, that's 10. It's not impossible, you know. Beforehand it was like 160 off 12 overs, and you're like, well, that's pretty much impossible. This felt like, wow, this could actually happen. And then when you got Das taking 12 on the first over, you're like, whoa, because it's kind of a weird scenario where you've got Australia supporting Bangladesh, but not too much. You know, it felt like Australia was like that incredible scene where they were trying to support their son Jax in that race, and he's really fast, and they're like, oh no, run fast, not too fast, and then no, keep going, but not too fast. Don't lose, but don't smash them. Thanks. So that was quite a weird dynamic. I thought the first 7 overs of that chase was box office stuff. It really was awesome stuff, because you've got Afghanistan trying to take wickets on a wicket that's doing a lot, and you've got Bangladesh trying to go at 10s, and it was just a recipe for chaos. It was awesome. After the 9th over, Bangladesh 73 for 5. You felt like they've got one last push in them maybe. Das hit 2 fours off Rashid Khan, back-to-back fours to end that 9th over. They needed 43 off 66 to win the game. That's less than 4 and over. That should be done relatively easy. Even 5 wickets in the shed. They needed 43 off 19 balls to qualify themselves, which is tough. That's about 13 or 14 over. It's not impossible. And when you put it into perspective, if they win in the 15 and 16th over, they don't go through. Australia goes through. If they get bowled out, Afghanistan goes through. So them going for it is the only way that they go through. Whether they win that game or not, the goal has to be to get through. And it felt like that's what it was. And that's what was so exciting. They were having a real crack. I don't know what happened. I don't know how after 2 boundaries you go, no, we're good. We're good. I don't know if they're trying for a draw. I don't know what the plan was, but Mamadullah absolutely buried him. The next 3 overs were absolutely a shambles. 5 dots in the next over. The next over after that, 3 runs in the next, 2 wickets, 1 run off the next over before the rain falls at 81 for 7. In that time, when they needed 43 off 19 balls to qualify for a semi-final, they don't get those very often in Bangladesh. They 8 runs off 16 balls in a chase where you need 19. So in a chase where you need 43 off 19, you go 8 off 16. I don't know what the bookies are looking at, but someone needs to have a look at that because that is, I don't understand that. That is so beta. And that is exactly why Bangladesh are where they are. And Afghanistan have barely been playing, and they are just a better all-round unit than Bangladesh because of shit like that. You know, there's just I don't understand what the thought process is. Are you trying to just end your tournament with a win? I don't know. It's just it defies belief for me. And it gets crazier. This game gets even crazier. It's just chaos from now on in. This is probably a really good time to thank our sponsor, Domino's Pizza, who have brought back their Philly cheesesteak pizza, and they have brought us along for the ride. They're joining TMC for the rest of the T20 World Cup. It's been awesome. We've been very open about our love for the Philly cheesesteak pizza, the Philly cheesesteak sandwich that it's based on. It's been marketed as the best food in the world. We've been through this. It's Hollywood stuff. It's Rocky. It's Kevin Hart stuff. You just every time you see it on the TV screen, it's looks like the best sandwich in the world. And if you are a very desperate person and you want to experience that, which potentially if I had the money, I'd look at that. You could spend $5,000 and fly to Philly. But sometimes when you are desperate, you can make some rash decisions. You can make some rash decisions like Afghanistan all-rounder Naeeb, who after seeing a signal from his coach to slow down, just slow down, calm down, because the rain is falling, and they were ahead on Duckworth Lewis. Not by much, but they were ahead. So what he was trying to say is just don't start rushing through your overs. You know, you got time. Just relax because you're ahead. Okay. Don't know. He obviously just took that message and ran with it because he chucked his hand up at first slip and said, "Yep, boss, I got that message." Got shot by a sniper, which no one seemed to care about. That's it's pretty chaotic stuff, getting shot in the leg in a cricket match. He's at first slip. He faced 3 balls while batting. He hadn't bowled at that point. He acted like he had cramp. That's the least amount of work I've ever seen to get cramp. Best part is his own captain was having a go at him, telling him, "What the fuck are you doing? That is embarrassing stuff." And it was. Then he had to sell it because they went off for rain anyway. So he's limping and he's smiling like an absolute idiot. And then when they come back on, they're like, "Oh, we actually need you to bowl." And he's like, "Oh, well, Jesus, I'm good to go." That's crazy. That's crazy stuff. Dooley and Smithy having a good laugh, calling him the 8th wonder of the world. It was all good stuff. I just could you not have thought of a subtler way to slow the game down? Like it's just silly stuff, isn't it? Like, you know, it's not that hard to just not go fast. You know, walk to the end of the over. Have a conversation with the bowler, like make it believable. Like, why would you be having cramp at first slip? Just silly stuff. I mean, it's just hilarious stuff. And this is what happens when you're too desperate to win. You make some dumb decisions, like our man Naeeb. So you know, instead of making a rash decision in desperation, don't fly to Philly, sell a kidney to get there. Try the Philly cheesesteak pizza at your local Domino's. $13. You're welcome. And obviously in the end, Bangladesh just fell to bits, as they do. Ironically, and that's the cricketing god saying you should have had a crack, you didn't, and you lost anyway. Somehow you needed 3.9 and over, whatever it was. You had 5 wickets in the bank, and you rolled over like some beta cucks.
The secret, eh?
Okay, let's let's review the 4 teams. Let's give some report cards for the 4 teams that have been knocked out. Obviously, everyone has different expectations, different results, but let's just go through it. Let's start with USA. They played 7 games. They won 2. They lost 4. 1 rained out. The highlights, that I think that the first game, winning on opening night against Canada, Aaron Jones 10 sixes. That felt like there was something, that felt good. That felt good for USA, the host nation doing something. Obviously, beating Pakistan, that's an epic game. That's something we'll probably remember for years to come. That's going to be played on every World Cup when they do those classic matches. That'll get played. That was sensational stuff. And then ultimately qualifying for the Super 8s, an amazing achievement. Like, nothing can take that away from them. Probably the story, depending on what happens next, but it's one of the stories of the whole tournament is them qualifying for the Super 8s. Lowlights, they ran out of gas. They got smashed by England and West Indies. It was always going to be tough to just continue that run against good team after good team. Eventually you sort of got to get found out, a bit more tape on your players, and they just sort of ran out of gas there for a bit. The worst game was probably the last game, which they probably were ready to go home at that point. Plenty of top performance. Gauss, 219 runs at 43, striking at 150. Aaron Jones, we talked about him in the first game, 162 runs at 40, striking at 130. And then Netravalka, he was a great story, former Indian age group player, 6 wickets at 20, comedy rate of just 6.6. Underperformers, a bit disappointing with Corey Anderson. I think a lot of people expected him to sort of carry this side, which sort of was a bit of an injustice to the rest of the side, but he didn't really do anything. He took 1 wicket, an average of 69 going at 9s, and he averaged 16 with the bat, striking at less than 100. So from a Kiwi point of view, I would have liked to see. I wanted to see a bit of Corey Anderson. We just didn't quite get that. Their expectation going into this, that they were never supposed to make the Super 8. 1 beating Canada, 2 maybe Ireland would have been good stuff. So their report is a B for me, maybe a B plus, because they've blown away the expectations. They just you sort of got to mark them down for the last few games, because they sort of just ran out of complete gas. Let's go to the West Indies. They played 7. They won 5. They lost 2. Plenty of highlights for the Windies. Beating New Zealand was massive. It sort of got them into the Super 8s. I think smashing Afghanistan felt like a statement, going top of the group. We can go into depth. Should it matter? Should that have carried over? Oh, I think it probably should have, because ultimately, that game meant nothing, because West Indies going home, Afghanistan are in the semis. So that's a bit of a shame. The lowlights for the West Indies, ultimately getting cooked by England, was the difference. They did lose to South Africa, but I thought they played well in parts. But just getting absolutely blasted away by England, that's just gone back. That's haunted them with net run rate and whatnot. So disappointing for them. Plenty of high performances from these guys. Puran, 238 runs at 38, striking at 140. Rutherford averaging 40. Shea Hope averaging 53. Plenty of offering with the ball. Alzari Joseph, 13 wickets at 13. Andre Russell, the man is back. He doesn't age. 11 wickets at 12, and he averaged 26 with the bat. Roston Chase averaged 47 with the bat, 11 with the ball, and we've got Akil Hussain. He took 9 wickets at 15. Economy rate less than 6. That's 6 bowlers in total, average less than 20. That's awesome stuff. The low performance, not so many. I thought Roman Powell being captain, only averaging 17. That's a little disappointing. Obviously, he's turned around the side from a captaincy point of view, but that's noted anyway. Shepherd, he was pretty poor. Took 2 wickets at 54 and going at 11s. That's quite bad considering everyone else is doing so well. That sort of sticks out like a sore thumb. Their expectations probably probably finished second in the group. I think a lot of people had them in the Super 8s and getting knocked down in the Super 8s. So if you want to look at it like that, they sort of did what they was supposed to do. But I'm going to give them a B plus because I thought they were one of the better sides for 6 games. And it's basically because they just laid an egg against England. They didn't make the semis, which is you can't take anything away from a great campaign. It's a shame they're not going to be in the semis because the life of the tournament. But considering they didn't even qualify for the 50-year-old World Cup and the last T20 World Cup, they've proven they are one of the premier sides of T20 cricket. I think they just one game didn't turn up. England played well, and ultimately it's small margins through to the semi-finals. So, yeah, unfortunate. Australia played 7, won 5, lost 2. So this is an interesting one because you got the same win-loss as West Indies, but different expectations is going to change the sort of conversation, I guess. Highlights, topping their group, smashing England in the group stage, looking $1 million for the first 5 games, and then just the wheels falling off against losing to Afghanistan and then getting knocked out by India. Just bang, bang, 3 days, it's all over. Top performers, Travis Head, 255 runs at 42, striking at 160. He was their best bat. Stoin, Big Puppy Stoin, arguably their most important player, 169, average 42 with the bat, striking at 164, and he took 10 wickets at 15. Zampa just keeps doing what Zampa does. Chalk him in for averaging 14, going at 6.5. He took 13 poles. Paddy Cummins, double hat-tricks, 9 wickets at 16. More underperformers than I would have thought. But, yeah, Mitchell Marsh, he got a few in that last game, but to only average 20, when you leave Steve Smith at home, I just thought would get a little bit more out of Mitchell Marsh, and he's only striking at 116. Tim David did fuck all, averaged 15. They didn't really get a lot out of their finishes. And Stark and Hazelwood both averaged over 30 with the ball. They don't take as many wickets as I would have thought, which is tough when they're taking the new ball. Their expectations, they're going to win this tournament. That's it. This is what Australia does. They win the tournament, or at the very least, they're in the final. And at the very, very least, it's the semi-final stuff. So because of that, I think it's a C minus. I think getting knocked down the Super 8s is just, that's not the standard we know with Australian. I think they get a bit of love because they were such a good side for the first 5 games. Didn't put a foot wrong. And then it's just, unfortunately, when you look at the stats, it sort of backs up the results. There's just not enough guys in form with the bat or the ball, unfortunately. Bangladesh, our beta side, played 7, won 3, lost 4. Highlights, I thought they were outstanding in group play. They could have easily been top qualifier, which obviously means nothing, but they were a bee's dick away from a Markram catch away from winning that game against South Africa and going through undefeated. I thought they were good all the way group stage. For whatever reason, they just did not turn up in the Super 8s. Australia and India, obviously good sides, but they got smashed in those 2 games. They performed well with the ball against Afghanistan, and they looked like they could do something special, but they just chose to limp to a depressing slow death instead of going out in a blaze of glory. And I've said my piece on that. I think it's a disgrace, and whatever. That's who you are. That's how you want to play your cricket. Whatever. Their performance, their high performance, their bowling attack has been sensational. They got 4 bowlers averaging under 20 with the ball. Just phenomenal. Actually, a really good attack. I think an underrated attack. They showed that tonight. But unfortunately, when we get to the low performers, their batting has been nothing short of disgraceful. They've played on some tough pitches, which inflates, the bowling and the batting to different directions. I get that, but their number 1 bat averaged 21. and he bats at 6. So I think that's just not good enough. And I know it's some tough pitches and stuff, but in the end, that's just not good enough. So my final report, it's a D plus. I think they are improving, but we say this every time. Their attack's very good, but they're fucked mentally. There's something wrong with how they play their cricket, and they just haven't figured it out. I don't know how Afghanistan have passed them in the hierarchy of world cricket, but whatever. It is what it is.
The secret, eh?
Okay, let's move forward. Let's look at the semis. Let's talk about who is the best side left in the World Cup. We've got England versus India, and we've got South Africa versus Afghanistan. It's pretty cool actually, because you're going to have either South Africa or Afghanistan playing for their first trophy. I can imagine South Africa have been pretty fucked off if they're trying their hardest and then fucking Afghanistan just nips them in the heel, picks up a trophy before them. But we'll sort of figure that out later on in the piece. So how are we gonna sort of figure out the best side? I mean, you could just wait to this end of the semis. We're not going to do that because that's just not how these things work. We're gonna rank all 4 sides batting and bowling as a unit, and then we're gonna go on form and pedigree, and then at the end, based on those results, we're gonna pick the best sides. Best sides from those results. So I've sort of ranked the 4 sides in their batting and their bowling, and then we'll sort of talk about the rest at the end. So I think we'll start at the bottom, because I think Afghanistan, as good as they've been, I think they have the 4th strongest batting lineup. You got Gubars, Zadran, Omarzai, Naeeb, Nabi, Janet, and Rashid Khan. Look, I'm going to butcher these names. I'm sorry. What's working well for them? Their openers are on fire, but I think they sort of rely on them a lot, and there's not a lot of other players actually offering in this World Cup. A lot of low scores, but I think we'll get to the bowling, but it's a reasonable batting lineup. But I just think that's probably their weakness when you get to the upper echelon. The third, coming in number 3, I got South Africa: De Kock, Hendricks, Markram, Stubbs, Klaasen, Miller, and Janssen. The positives at the moment is you got a lot of different guys winning games of cricket with the bat. You got De Kock, you got Janssen, Klaasen, Stubbs, Miller. They're all sharing it around. It's not just the top 4, or not just 1 or 2 guys. It's a sort of a range. I think that's positive, because you don't know who's going to step up. I think the negatives is, I said the people are stepping up on droves, but no one's really sort of like, they're not on fire. Like the highest average is De Kock, who averaging 28. Admittedly, they've played on some rough surfaces. But they've still got guys like Hendricks and Markram who just have not offered anything. That's two out of your top 3. They've won every game, but that's we're just ranking batting lineups, and that's why they're at 3. Number 2, we've got India: Rohit, Kohli, Rishabh Pant, Suryakumar Yadav, Dubey, Hardik, Jadeja, and I've added XR 8, and I'll tell you why in a second. I think most of that top order has delivered at some stage. We will obviously get to someone that hasn't. And I think what you've got a deep lineup. I think XR offers, and I think Jadeja offers, and I know they haven't been used much, but I think what that allows a side to do is they can accelerate a little earlier than others, because other, like South Africa have Janssen at 7, and that's really it from there. So to have XR at 8, I think can be a bonus. Negatives, they've done all this without Kohli. They haven't. Well, that could be a positive actually, because they're unbeaten without Kohli doing absolutely nothing. He has just, he's moved up top, and no one's really talked about him being dropped, but obviously it's Coley. I assume he's going to figure it at some point. But yeah, it has to be noted. He's just hasn't done anything at all. So he's at number 2, and I've got England at 1 for just batting lineup purposes. Salt, Butler, Moeen. They've moved away from Jack, so we'll go Moeen, Bairstow, Brook, Livingston, Curran. The positives of this lineup, and it doesn't matter how they're tracking. They've got X factor. They've got power. They've got 360 all the way through, and even the best bowling, if batting's on their day, their batting can be so good that bowling does not matter if it's the right pitch. They've obviously, with the negatives, they haven't actually done that well against good teams. I have mentioned that they do love to minnow bash, so they can't do that anymore. But just looking at that side, it's got a lot of pedigree. They are, we'll talk about the bowling at some point, but guys like Butler, he's so good that he could actually take down Bumrah, who's a cheat code. So that's the level that they can bring. So I think that's why I have them at the one spot for the batting. Having said that, it's a good chance to move on to the bowling. England are without doubt the worst bowling lineup out of these 4 teams. It's really hard to split the top 3, but it's really easy to put England at the bottom. They've got bowling options. They've got Topley, Archer, Wood, Curran, Moeen, Rashid, Livingston. The positive is that they have got a lot of options. Especially when you got Livingston doing his off-spin leggies. They've got 7 bowlers they can use at any point, depending on what they want. They've got matchups and things like that. Archer is looking like the business. He's probably, I say the bowling hasn't been good. I don't think that's because of him. I think he's been a shining light. However, with this England side, it's a lot of all-rounders. It's a jack of all trades. It's a master of none. Not a lot of excellence in the bowling attack. They're just a bit meh. And then I think the good batting lineups or a flat wicket could just take them apart on their day. This was really hard, this split the top 3. I think all 3 have a case for number 1. I've gone Afghanistan at the 3. Could easily be 1 if you want. Naveen, Faruqi, Nabi, Rashid, Noor, and Naib. Old Rain, what do you say? Rain strings, Zampa. It's good stuff. They do have the best spin attack. Nabi, Rashid Khan, and Noor. They are the best spin attack, I think, as a group, as a whole. It's just variety. They're covering all their bases. Rashid Khan's probably the best in the world. Faruqi, if you want to tell me he's the best bowler in the power play, I'm not going to argue because the results speak for themselves. He's swinging it both ways. He's bowling at good pace. He's taking wickets. You can't sort of fault that. Negatives, they've played on some hard pitches, really difficult batting pitches, which do suit them, and they've done well. They played on one good pitch and they got taken to 200. So I don't know what to make of that, but that's just, we're splitting hairs at this point, and the other 2 sides didn't go for 200. So there you go. I've gone India in the 2 with Arshdeep, Bumrah, Axar, Hardik, Kuldeep, and Jadeja. I don't feel great about it. If you want them to put them at 1, I'm not going to argue. The argument for them is, Bumrah is a cheat code. He is the best T20 bowler ever. He is a bowler that I called him he's the break in case of emergency bowler. You can bowl him at the start, you can bowl him at the death, you can bowl him in the middle. Whenever you think you need a wicket or a tight over, you bring him on for 1 over because he can bowl quick. He's got the best slow, he's got the funny action. I think what's going underrated with Bumrah is I think he is potentially the smartest bowler in the world. He just seems to figure batters out. He reminds me a little bit of peak LeBron James, where he's dissecting defenses. he's trying to figure out what they're doing, and then he sort of figures out, oh, this is what I need to do. I think Boomer does that with batters. I think he figures out I think he knows what they're going to do, and then he has the counter because he has so many tools. So I think his brain is as good as his sort of ability, and I think that goes underrated a little bit. Kuldeep, arguably one of the best spinners, if not the best. He's been unbelievable. And I think you've got a variety of attack there. They cover all bases with their attack. There's not too many negatives. The only ones I've got is Hardik and Jadeja seem to be slight weak links, seem to be where sides are attacking. So that's something to be aware of. Hardik, when he's on fire, that just adds so much to the side. But I just noticed in that Australian game, when he gets taken down, it does leave a hole quite quickly. You take him and Jadeja out, suddenly there's a lot more pressure on the other bowlers. Obviously, the other ones are pretty good. So my number one bowling attack, I've gone with South Africa. They have played on harder pitches to bat on, but they've been unbelievable. Janssen, Rabada, Nortje, Maharaj, Shamsi, and then Markram to bowl a little bit. They're dominating with the spin attack. Shamsi and Maharaj, unbelievable as a duo. The pace attack is unbelievable. Nortje, Rabada, Janssen, they're breathing fire. There's no weak link in that attack. The negatives are potentially the arguments against, I should say. Markram as your sixth bowler, he has been okay, but I think that feels a bit light. That feels like if one of these other bowlers go, are you going to rely on Markram? That feels just a little bit light, compared to India and England and stuff like that. They have a few different options. Fortunately for South Africa, the options they do have are fucking good, and they have not failed. But they haven't played on the really, really good, sort of the better pitches. So, and they may not. So it might not matter. So that's why I had them at number one. So based on these results, it tells me that South Africa and India are the best sides. That tells me that they're sort of the best sides left, and I'm inclined to agree that that's probably where I would land on who's going to make it through South Africa and India. They feel like the most well balanced out of the four teams. There doesn't seem to be too many weaknesses. I think India have sort of more options with have sort of all round side. I think I would, if I'm picking a winner, my head tells me India, but I would love South Africa to break that duck. That'd be a story. So hopefully South Africa can get that done, but Afghanistan does await. That's all we've got time for. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Enjoy the ride. We've got a couple of semis. We've got a final to go. Thanks to all the listeners. Thanks to Domino's, and we will see you after the semis.